Have you ever wondered what holds the world's largest democracy together? Well, it all comes down to one incredible document, the Constitution of India. Think of it as the ultimate rulebook, the very blueprint that has guided a nation of over 1 billion people for decades. So how does it all work? Let's dive in and find out.
You've probably seen this symbol before, right? This is the lion capital of Ashoka, and it's the national emblem of India. It's this powerful symbol of courage, of strength, and it perfectly represents the values that are literally written into the Constitution. This isn't just some picture, it's a constant reminder of the principles the entire nation is built on.
All right, so here's our game plan. To really get a handle on this amazing document, we're going to break it down into 5 key parts. We'll start with what a constitution even is, then get into the heart of it with the preamble's promise. After that, we'll talk about your fundamental rights, see how the government is set up to protect them, and finally, look at our role as citizens.
So first things first, what exactly is a constitution? At its core, it's the supreme law of the land. It's the ultimate set of rules that lays out not just how a country should be governed, but also defines the entire relationship between the government and its people. You know, a really good way to think about it is like a nation's operating system. It sets the rules, it defines the government's powers, what it's allowed to do, but just as importantly, it sets its limits, what it absolutely cannot do. It creates the whole framework, and this is crucial, it guarantees the rights of every single person living there.
Okay, so if the Constitution is the rulebook, then the preamble, well, the preamble is its soul. It's the mission statement. It's that opening declaration that lays out the core philosophy and the entire purpose of the document. It's basically a promise that the people of India made to themselves.
And this, right here, is the most important part. Just look at those first 3 words, we the people. This makes it crystal clear that this isn't some document handed down by a king or a foreign power. No, it establishes right from the very first line that the ultimate authority, the real power, comes directly from the citizens of India. First off, the preamble declares India to be sovereign. Now, for a nation that was just emerging from centuries of foreign rule, this was a massive statement. It means India is completely independent. It makes its own laws, it decides its own future, and no outside power can tell it what to do. It also declares India to be secular. And in a country with such incredible religious diversity, this is absolutely profound. It means the government doesn't have an official religion. It stays neutral and ensures that every single citizen has the freedom to follow any faith they choose or no faith at all.
And finally, it sets up a democratic republic. Now, that sounds a little formal, right? But let's break it down. Democratic means the government is chosen by the people. Simple as that. Republic means the head of state, in this case the president, is also an elected official, not a king or queen who inherits the title.
So what does this big promise actually deliver? Well, it boils down to 4 huge ideals. Justice, to fight against inequality. Liberty, to protect our freedom to think and speak. Equality, to make sure everyone gets a fair shot. And fraternity, which is all about promoting a sense of brotherhood and respecting the dignity of every single person. So the preamble makes all these amazing promises, but are they just nice words on a page? Absolutely not. And that's where part 3 of the Constitution comes in. This is where those ideals become real, legally enforceable guarantees. We're talking about the fundamental rights, the very bedrock of freedom in India.
And these rights are incredibly broad. They're grouped into major categories that cover pretty much everything, from the right to be treated equally, to basic freedoms, to protection from exploitation, and the right to practice your religion and preserve your culture.
Let's look at a few heavy hitters. Take Article 14. This is the cornerstone of equality. It flat out guarantees that every single person is equal in the eyes of the law. It doesn't matter who you are, a top official or a regular citizen, no one is above the law. And then you have something as powerful as this. Article 17 shows the Constitution as a tool for radical social change. It takes a historical injustice, this practice of untouchability, and it doesn't just discourage it. It abolishes it. It forbids it. It makes it a crime. That is a revolutionary statement. Of course, there's Article 19, which is basically the lifeblood of any democracy, freedom of speech and expression. Now, it's not a free-for-all. There are some reasonable limits to protect public order, but it's still the essential foundation that allows for debate, for dissent, and for a free press. And this one, Article 21, might just be the most profound of them all.
It's a single sentence that guarantees the right to life and personal liberty. But what does that really mean? Well, over the years, India's Supreme Court has said it means so much more. It includes the right to privacy, the right to a clean environment, and maybe most importantly, the right to live with basic human dignity.
Okay, so the Constitution lays out all these incredible rights. But who makes sure they're actually protected? Who's the referee in this whole system? Well, to make it all work, the Constitution created a really clear and balanced structure for the government itself. And this structure is basically built on three main pillars. You've got the legislature, which is the parliament, and their job is to make the laws. Then there's the executive, the president and ministers, who implement those laws. And finally, the judiciary, the court system, whose job is to interpret the laws. This separation is so important because it creates checks and balances, so no one part of the government can get too powerful.
And that brings us right back to the beginning, because while the Constitution gives us all these incredible rights, it also says, hey, a healthy democracy needs everyone to participate. So it also outlines our fundamental duties, reminding us that with all these rights come responsibilities.
Now, unlike the rights, you can't be taken to court for not doing these duties. But they act as a kind of moral compass. They ask every citizen to respect the Constitution, to promote harmony, to protect public property, things like that. Really, it's about the citizen's side of the bargain, a reminder that a great democracy is a two-way street. Which leaves us with one last big question. This Constitution was written way back in 1949 for a brand new country. And yet, it's still the guide for the super dynamic, always changing India of today. So how does this old document stay so relevant? How does it remain a living, breathing blueprint? Well, that's the true, enduring power of the Indian Constitution.